Michael, what's happening, my dude? So, in the seemingly never-ending quest to get through all of these movies on this shelf, I'll tell you what, man, I'm gonna be doing this for a while. This week, I only managed to get through 4 movies. Been another busy week, getting this video up late again, but here it is. These are the horrors that I've seen. I got a lot of shit to do. What's your excuse? Yeah, I know you are, Michael.
You can't believe all the things I've done wrong in my life.
As always, I hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. So, the first movie that I watched this week is definitely one of my top 10 favorite horror movies of all time. And you may feel strangely about me after I show you what this is. Martyrs from 2008. That I clearly paid $14.99 for at Best Buy. I have this on Blu-ray as well. I have to watch that on an all-region player. I can't even remember what region it's from. You guys don't care about that at all. If you guys have not seen this movie, it's one of my favorites. It was very unexpected. This was blind for me. I kept seeing this movie in Best Buy. Never bought it. Never knew anything about it. This was back long before I was watching movie trailers on my phone prior to making a purchase. I finally pulled the trigger on this thing when a former coworker of me told me, he asked me if I'd ever seen it. He said, I know you're a huge horror fan. You ever see this movie? I told him no. He goes, well, I'm not going to tell you anything at all about that movie, but I really would like you to pick it up and watch it and let me know what you think. This movie almost feels like 2 movies inside of a movie that's basically split right down in the middle. The beginning is very, very different. I'm spitting all over the place today. Then the first half is very different than the second half. Movie begins with a little girl escaping from where she is being held captive and tortured. You know, pretty cut and dry, that's what's going on there. And it jumps forward several years, and she's now not in the she's in an orphanage. Then it jumps forward several more years, and she's no longer in an orphanage, and she has found the people that were torturing her. She involves one of her friends in this whole fiasco of a movie. The friend comes over, shit hits the fan. Shit hits the fan pretty fast in this movie. And then about halfway through, you kind of take your foot off the gas in one aspect, but then you hit the gas in a completely different aspect. That is one of those movies that were part of the French Extreme line of movies that came out for a while there. I'm sure they're still coming out, but I'm not as up on them as I was at that time. That movie, in my opinion, is spectacular. It's a beautifully made movie. It is in French, though, so if you don't like subtitles, steer clear. Well, you know what? There is an English audio track. You may not be English. You may be watching this in another country. Whatever. It may not be in your language, but there are subtitles, and there's an English audio track in there. And if you already speak French, good for you. You can watch that movie without worrying about any of that shit. Very well-made movie, very compelling story. It's never, in my opinion, ever boring at any time. The second half of the movie is definitely slower than the first half of the movie was, but it's, again, very different. And I'll tell you what, the only way that I would say not to watch that movie is if your emotions are very easily rattled. If that's the case, you have no business watching that movie. It's not so much that it's gory, and it's not so much that it's scary, but it definitely will shake you to the core if you are very easily rattled emotionally. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Watch Martyrs. It's a fantastic movie and one of my all-time favorites. Stumbled through that one. All right, next thing that I watched this week was Guillermo del Toro's Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. I'm a pretty big fan of what I've seen from Del Toro. I have not seen tons of his work. I've definitely not seen all of his work. Well, if I haven't seen tons of it, certainly didn't see all of it. But that one was pretty cool. Much different, in my opinion, than what I have seen from him. My favorite thing that I've seen from him is definitely The Shape of Water. Love that movie. This one was good. I won't say it was great. I wasn't crazy about it. This was, Katie Holmes is in this movie. I believe she's the only one that, right off the top of my head that I remember seeing in anything else, or that I know from anywhere else. This movie, you have a husband and his girlfriend and his daughter move into this great big, giant friggin' house. It's one of those big-ass haunted house movies, if you will. They get into this house. The house starts to... something in the house begins to harass the little girl. Like we haven't seen that happen before. She's trying to get her father's attention to tell him that shit's going wrong. The father's not paying attention to it. He doesn't want to leave the house because all his money is invested in this house. But this little girl insists that there's something in there and it's trying to get her. The things that are in this house, there's hundreds, if not thousands of them. They look like rat, caveman, Nosferatu little sumbitches. And they come out in the dark. They don't like light. They come out in the dark. So light is your only escape from these things. So they try and destroy light. Well, they're trying to get to this little girl. They exchange silver coins for human teeth, and they feast on the bones of children. Now, you've seen this movie before. You just have seen it in a different form. This one was okay for me. I wasn't crazy about it. It was about an hour and a half, hour and 40, 45 minutes long. I mean, if you're a Del Toro fan and you haven't seen this movie, I guess it's worth the time to sit down and watch it. But if you haven't seen it, you ain't missing nothing. You've seen it before, just told in a different shape or form. All right, so give it a shot if that's what you want to do. Next thing I watched was a film from 1976 that I actually found in a thrift store for 50 cents that somehow I've never seen before in my life. Burnt Offerings. Man, that glare on these lights is a bitch. Burnt Offerings. I finally watched this movie, and that was another haunted house movie. This time around, the house is kind of... it's not something in the house, it's the house. Is kind of messing with the main guy in this movie. I don't even remember who the hell he was. Who was it? Oliver Reed. The house is messing with Oliver Reed at times. It's messing with Karen Black is the lead female. The female lead in this movie is Karen Black. Said that twice, just in reverse order. The house possesses Karen Black at times. It possesses Oliver Reed at times. There's a kid in this movie. You can't have a haunted house movie without a kid in it. There's a kid in the movie. It doesn't ever possess the kid, but it messes with the kid. This one was also okay for me. I wasn't compelled to jump up and turn off the television set, but I wasn't blown away by this movie either. I thought it was okay. It looks exactly like a movie that was made in 1976. It's got that real soft feel to it, like, I don't know, like Carrie did. It looks and feels like that, Carrie and Phantasm, where it just, everything looks soft and faded, maybe. Is faded the word I'm looking for? It was all right. I mean, I paid 50 cents for it, so I'm not heartbroken that I didn't love the damn thing. And it's cool to have it in my collection. I always was aware of this movie, but somehow didn't know shit about it. I never watched it, and once I did watch it, I knew that I had never seen even a clip from this movie. Unless maybe it showed up in, like, Terror in the Isles, and I just didn't realize that that's what I was looking at. But it was all right. You know what else it felt kind of like? It had like a Changeling or an Omen feel. Like all that haunted house and haunted demon shit from back in the 70s. It felt like that, just not as good as Carrie or Phantasm or The Omen or or Amityville. It felt like that, but it wasn't as good as any of those other movies were. So it's okay. That's my stamp on that movie. It was okay. All right, and the last thing that I watched this movie, I definitely liked more than Burnt Offerings, and I definitely liked more than Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. And this is something that I've seen multiple times before. Dog Soldiers. Absolutely. Who was it? Neil Marshall. It's a Neil Marshall movie. He also did The Descent, for sure. If you haven't seen The Descent, it's pretty amazing. But so is this. Dog Soldier, man, I'm telling you what, man, that glare is enough to piss off the Pope. This movie, it's a It's a werewolf movie. You have these army guys, they're out doing, they're out, like they're a weekend, like National Guard. That's the kind of shit that I get out from it anyway. I don't know exactly what part of the military they are. They're out in the mountains, they're out in the woods, they're in Ireland, and they start finding things that are all chewed up, animals chewed up. They come across one guy who you see earlier in the movie. Man, I'm describing this thing poorly. They come across another guy, he's like a sergeant or whatever, and he has been attacked by something. And it's that same something that is chewing up all these animals, and you're finding guts and fucked up campsites and everything else from something in the woods. They finally find out what it is in the woods, and they are rescued by some girl in a Jeep, and they take refuge in her cabin. And they spend the rest of the movie in this cabin trying to keep out these things that are trying to get to them. Werewolves. I already told you it was a werewolf movie. Whatever. Dog Soldiers is badass. I actually just pre-ordered a 4K of Dog Soldiers from Shout Factory, ironically, the day before I watched Dog Soldiers. I tell you what, if you watch my content on my other channels and this channel as well, you know that I spin some random wheel for shit all the time because decision making is bullshit. And there's no way I'm going to try and decide which movies I'm going to watch. So I spin a wheel, and the wheel is what picked all 4 of these movies except for Martyrs. I picked that one. The wheel picked Dog Soldiers right after I ordered the Dog Soldiers 4K. So the world just happens, shit happens in strange ways. That movie is one of my favorite werewolf movies probably ever. My favorite is definitely An American Werewolf in London. The Howling's way up. I'm not going to go through that list. But Dog Soldiers is up there on my list. I think it's fantastic. The practical effects are great. The werewolves look really great. The tension that builds in this movie is pretty outstanding. The story is pretty engrossing. It's basic. I mean, there's not a lot to it, but you don't ever... pardon me. Nothing happens to take you out of the movie, in my opinion, obviously. Such as this entire video and every video on this channel. It's all my opinion. But nothing, in my opinion, takes you out of this movie. There's no dry, dull lulls in this movie. It's just good from start to finish, in my opinion. You build characters in the beginning of the movie. There's a couple relationships that you see kind of built and kind of kicked around and beat up a little bit. You find one guy, he's kind of a piece of shit, and you learned that as well. And then you see where that goes. It's pretty damn good. I think Dog Soldiers is fantastic. I'm sure Neil Marshall has done a million different movies, but the 2 that I know for sure that I like are The Descent and Dog Soldiers. What actually made me watch this movie, to be totally honest with you, is somebody told me somewhere, or I read, I don't remember, I found out, there you go, that the guy who made The Descent made Dog Soldiers. And I went, then I need to see Dog Soldiers. And that movie is fantastic. All right, so that's it for this week. Easily, I mean, to nobody's surprise, my favorite movie that I watched this week is Martyrs.
Yeah.
Get rid of that price tag. Hey, different cover. I forgot about that. Martyrs is easily my favorite movie that I watched this week. I absolutely love that movie. I don't know what it is about that movie that makes it in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Like I said, that may say something about me. Who the hell knows? Who the hell cares? But I love that movie. I love everything about it. And if I have to really dig deep, I think that the reason that I like that so much is because it was so unexpected when I watched it. It caught me off guard. At that time, I'd never seen anything like that. And I still have never seen anything like that again. Very unique movie, in my opinion. Again. And my least favorite movie of the week is Burnt Offerings. I mean, this movie was all right. It was okay. And that's about it. Didn't suck. You may like it. You may have seen it and love that movie. Great. I thought it was okay. And it's my least favorite of the four. I'm getting out of here. I got a video to edit, and then I got to get other shit done, and then I got to get ready to go to work, and I actually would like to get another movie in today. So I'm going to go. If you guys like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you really like this video and you've been enjoying my content up to this point, please do me a huge personal favor. Click that subscribe button and ring that bell. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Have a kick-ass day. Thank you for watching, folks. See you in the next one.